to again come back to the idea of demographics and aging and lower fertility. I think these are the some of the challenges that we're going to be confronted with. We've already referred to the changes in the life course. I want to insist also on the idea of more instability, more insecurity in the labor market, but that definitely has a huge impact in terms of learning, because often it's very much related to your work projects. So insecurity, instability in the labor market has a huge impact, and particularly for women, I want to insist on this. They more and more need to be responsible for their income. So will they be coming to the university for specific requirements or not? Obviously, education plays a clearly determinant role in quality of life in general. And I think we really have to look at that in detail. Again, we've referred to inequality. What was in the video there about half of the world having access to the web soon. Again, wow, I think that's hugely optimistic. Let's hope it works out, but I don't really think it's going to happen. The other element that I think is particularly important, obviously that's my field of research, the need to balance work and family and personal life. That is, again, more and more important. There used to be a situation where men were in the labor market, women were at home. Now we have everybody in the labor market, in private activities, in family life. Fathers want to be more involved, so it's becoming a hugely complex equation. So obviously need to look for more flexibility, for e-learning, need to combine work and family. And therefore, clearly a need to diversify forms and to adapt education over the life course. We've mentioned MOOCs, lifelong learning, e-learning, et cetera, et cetera. I want to mention a few elements in terms of the work context. I won't go into too much detail on this, but nevertheless, I think clearly the normal day schedule is becoming less and less frequent. There's not that many people working 9 to 5, so obviously universities have started to adapt, but they might have to do it even more. Women are working in services, young people are working in services, aging people who retire and sometimes come back are working in the services. It's extremely complex. The working hours are crazy, so having an education in that context is crazy. Over half of managers have variable hours, generally imposed by the employer, not the flexible hours that you want to do. It's what your employer and your organization imposes upon you. So, and also increase in pressure at work. Stress, burnouts are becoming increasingly important. So when you ask, well, I work on work, family, or work-life issues, and more we're talking work, life, education. So it starts to become a very, very complex picture. And I think education has to adapt to higher education, but education from the start has to adapt to this. I just wanted to highlight a few sources of stress that are there. I think we forget about this, but people tend to be stressed by work, yes, by family and personal life, and sometimes by the achievements that are expected of them in the educational environment. And I think this is particularly important. I'll mention the issue of role ambiguity. We speak about that a lot in terms of work-family issues, how we have roles, a family role, a working role, a husband role, a wife role, a mother, father, etc. This role ambiguity is extremely complex, and people have sometimes difficult situations in that type of context. Increased control of supervisors and increased control at work. That also in sociology of work really comes out very clearly. We thought we would be, people are more educated. They should be more independent. What do they want? They want to be autonomous in their work. What are we giving them? Are we giving them autonomy? In reality, no. Actually, there's much more control in the workplace. Autonomy has seemed to decrease, although most people want more of it. So I think that all of this really reduces the capacity of individuals to adapt, and it actually increases the stress and makes it somewhat more difficult to engage in educational activities. And I think education, ideally, should contribute to give more control over one's life course and over one's income also. And I think we tend to forget about this, but yes, in North America, the distribution of income is hugely unequal in comparison with countries like Sweden and others. So it is possible to be somewhat more equal, and I think education has a huge role to play in that context. And the diversity of formats in education particularly have a huge role to play. And I really hope that with education we will be able to give people more autonomy and more control over their work. And I'll conclude on the idea that I think there's a collective responsibility here. I think obviously the state has a role to play, but as we see in the context of austerity in many countries such as Canada, but a lot in Europe as well, the state tends to move out. And so again, inequality becomes more important. The employer, I think, is hugely important, again, in terms of access to education. Often, unfortunately, employers tend to give access to training, as they call it, because it's really training, formal training sessions, to people to kind of give them, you know, if you've performed well, we'll give you access to a training session. It's not according to need. If we look at the reality, men have more training, managers get more training, technicians or certain groups get more training, but a lot of people who would need it don't have access to it. So I think universities really have an important responsibility in terms of outreach, in terms of really the diversification of educational formats, in terms of, I think we're starting to talk about programme Gigogne, that is, yes, the MOOC, the formal training sessions, the certificate, the bachelor's, etc. But really think of in terms of the length of the educational pattern and also in terms of how it is delivered. And then I think also parents or families, there really has to be a development in terms of sharing responsibilities if we want to ensure that women do have the same access to lifelong learning as men do.